It seems that La Liga has agreed to sell a 10% stake in CVC Capital Partners, which would be a €2.7 billion deal. And that's a deal that still needs to be ratified by the clubs, all of which should agree to it with a little bit of pushback from Barça or Real Madrid, but I expect that to happen. And if it does, it's reported that Barcelona would get €270 million. And if you're thinking transfers, I'd try to put those out of your head because this is going to be all about paying off debt and making sure that the players are registered, especially with Lionel Messi set to sign his contract in the next few hours. Anyway, that's a topic for maybe say a podcast tomorrow, because we get to distract ourselves with Barcelona's 2-1 loss to Red Bull Salzburg and the 5 things we learned from this preseason friendly match. 1. Barça is still in their preseason. Salzburg is clearly already playing in their season, whether it's Champions League and getting their league campaign begun, and you could feel that intensity. It was rainy, it was a full house in Salzburg, and certainly the fouls, that's the thing that Ronald Koeman talked about in postgame, made it feel like this one was a regular season match for at least one of the teams. But Barcelona is still 2 weeks away from getting their season started. You know, the fanfare of the Gamper Trophy still to come. As I said, the weather conditions kind of made this one an odd one when it felt like only one team was truly trying to participate and needed to get a result. And I don't know why you need to get a result in a friendly. And that's on the defense of the Catalans. There are still worrying signs that will continue on throughout the season, like getting caught on the counterattack. And I'm going to reverse it one more time and say that Red Bull Salzburg does deserve a bit of credit. They've got a talented, young, hungry squad, and they've got some Champions League business to try to worry about, and maybe these two teams will meet again. For Karim Adeyemi, the 19-year-old striker, I can see why Barça has been linked with him many times in the past, and the American Brendan Aronson, nice to see that he showed out as well. He got that winning goal, and that's about his level, but for Barcelona, they were facing a young and hungry, talented team, and again, I'm not going to go crazy about the result here, but the intensity and the difference between preseason and in-season was certainly telling. 2. Koeman's still experimenting with formations. This formation was a 3-5-2 with Gavi sitting in front of Busquets and Nico González in a double pivot, and then you had a back 3 with Frankie de Jong in the middle. And in this formation, I do want to focus on Nico González for a minute, because I was critical of him against Stuttgart. I felt like pairing with de Jong, he was basically playing as an interior, it didn't really fit what he wanted to do, and I thought his positioning next to Busquets was much, much better. I don't want to overanalyze this idea that de Jong isn't a La Masia built midfielder and therefore they don't know intrinsically how to work together because de Jong is such a talented player. But I do think having Busquets next to him in that role and kind of understanding what Busquets is going to do as a pivot and understanding then what his responsibilities are as an interior, much like he did with Ander Ortegana for so much of last season in the beginning and the first half of Barça B season with Garcia Pimienta. So I thought Nico was much more comfortable in a way that I saw people calling him a weak link. I didn't see it at all. I thought Barcelona as a whole weren't ready to it, and I thought Nico was just as good as Busquets, as Alba, and some of his other first-team teammates that he could be joining for a few times this year. And even when he didn't receive the ball, he was always in the right spots, whether it was for a de Jong pass that was supposed to break the line, or it's just about 10 yards in front of Busquets for that vertical ball forward. I thought he just picked his spots and was very comfortable in where he needed to be to try to exploit that space, and I was particularly impressed with his combinations that he was able to build with Dest out wide and with Griezmann when he would drop in. One of the reasons this 3-5-2 didn't work so great today was I think Alba and Dest didn't bring their best, as we've actually been seeing throughout this preseason, which if you want to worry about that, we can worry about that in a bit, but I'm going to wait until Emerson arrives until I go too crazy about the fullbacks. As for the center backs, 3 at the back might be a solution, or maybe it isn't a solution for the overflow of center backs. If you replace de Jong with Eric Garcia as the middle of that back 3, I think a lot of the same things happen, and Garcia can fit that role rather well. And you have Lenglet on the left, or maybe it's Piqué on the left, or you have Araujo on the left, and then you have Araujo or Mingueza or Piqué on the right. And I don't worry too much about the formation change because after all, this is a time for experimentation. It's good for Koeman, even though he's likely to go with a 4-3-3, to have a backup plan in that 3-5-2, which worked so well in the second half of last season. My only concern with this formation is how little service that the forwards were getting. Memphis was looking around a few times after receiving the ball and realizing that because Griezmann had dropped so deep and Gavi was still kind of defending, that if the wingbacks weren't there for an overlapping run, which sometimes they weren't, then Memphis would just be all alone up top. And even he was dropping in a bit deeper. Things did change when the formation changed in the second half with Martin Braithwaite, actual number 9, coming on, but it does make it a little bit worrying about the Memphis Griezmann thing, but that doesn't add Messi to the picture at all. And when we do talk about this formation, I have to mention that Ronald Araújo, this scoreline could have been a lot worse if not for that center back. Seeing him healthy, an important part of this team, he can be really, really good. The advanced defensive metrics are tops to La Liga, and if he could even figure out how to play that 15 to 20 yard ball And this is no disrespect to Langley, but Araújo needs to be starting on the left or the right in that kind of scenario. Just his ability to snuff out danger and defend 1v1. And I think for PK, he needs to look to Araújo to become Barcelona's best 1v1 defender this season. 4. Gavi will be needed. It doesn't say anything, we keep talking about Puig or Roberto, whoever. I don't think it says anything about them that he started this fourth match. I think it says more about the fact that Gavi will be needed. Because even with Puig and Roberto, that just leaves, if Pedri is to get a few weeks off, and Coutinho, don't know what's going to happen with him, Pjanic obviously is on his way out as well, that leaves 4 midfielders for 3 spots for maybe the first 2 to 3 weeks of this season. And again, that's counting Puig and counting Roberto as a midfielder. There's just Busquets and De Jong played at center back in this game. So I think Gavi, just as a warm body, will be needed for the first part of this season, and he has not looked out of place, and I think that is just enough for Ronald Koeman to say, hey, you're definitely going to be relied upon. Will he go down with Barca B for most of the season? Probably. But as we see from most teams, we saw for Kaiser Ruiz for PSG last season, this is the time, the first 2-3 weeks, while the international players are coming back and kind of guiding themselves into the season slowly and coming along. Pedri deserves that break, so this is the time for Gavi to get about 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even a month of first team action, get his feet wet, and come back as he turns 17 tomorrow as a full player ready to play in the first team next season. And he is certainly on the right path. Gavi impressed me once again. And number 5 is missing Messi. This was the first game of the preseason where I went, oh yeah, I forgot. The Argentine and the captain of the team isn't here. Not that I was forgetting Messi in the other ones, because he certainly has been on social media recently, but this was that kind of match that because those forwards weren't getting the kind of service that was required, the team was being pretty intense, it was rainy, it was weird. These are those games that Messi saves Barcelona. These are the ones where he picks it up from that right side, dribbles in, nobody stays with him along the penalty line, and then he just puts it in the top corner, and Barcelona get a weird goal that kind of comes out of nothing. And that, I mean, it comes out of the feet of Lionel Messi. But not just him on the field. I think that Barca in this match, dealing with that intensity in the first half, yes, it got better after halftime, and the changes were more helpful to Barca because Red Bull Salzburg seemed to completely change their whole team at halftime. All that said, I think Messi as a captain was missing because of the way that he just picks up that intensity a little bit, especially last season and for Argentina. I think he's finally, as we've spoken about, rounding into form as a big capital C captain for FC Barcelona. And so just not having that voice, I think maybe it hurt a little bit. That said, Yusuf Demir coming on at the end of that game, boy oh boy is he good as well. So, I mean, I think if he's able to do 40% of what Messi does sometimes, you could see how that game shifted when he came on, and I'm continuing to be excited about Demir. But that said, I know that Lionel Messi was not in that match, and I'm looking forward to not only him signing his contract in the next few hours, but getting back in the squad, giving that speech for the Juan Gamper trophy, and reminding us that he is captain of this club. Honestly, I know I threw this Messi one in at the end. It really was probably just the first 4 things we learned. But missing Messi also reminds me that this is a preseason friendly, and the 2-1 loss, it doesn't matter. That's why I didn't talk about how the goals were scored. It was a Golazo for the first one. Martin Braithwaite, he didn't know anything about the equalizer. And then the second goal for Red Bull Salzburg, scored by Brendan Aronson. I'm not sure how much he knew. He got a lucky bounce, and it's a 2-1 loss in a preseason friendly. It doesn't matter at all, and good for you, Salzburg. You got the result, and I'm actually kind of happy for them because they got a win. It seems like an important part of their season when they already needed one. All right, so there it is. Again, a meaningless preseason loss, with the Juan Gamper Trophy being the final preseason game before the Liga kicks off in about 2 weeks against Real Sociedad. And a reminder, too, that the Juan Gamper Trophy is a double-header with the Femení, who happened to win 17-0 against Elche Femenino in a preseason match for them. And so they look just as strong as they did last season, and we're going to be covering them this year. We'll be covering the first team. And until then, we've got plenty of content coming your way, so help us out. Give us a like, subscribe to the channel, share it wherever, that's a big one, share it wherever you can. And until then, Forza Barça.